Mobility 90, mobility 90, 10 more till we hit the big 100. We're going to go into a familiar one this morning. We're going to go into a few mobility drills before we get into individual stretches, okay? So we're going to go into our, well, there's a name for this, but I'm not using it because I just call it the stretch for your posterior chain. Now, to do this one effectively, you're going to need to make sure that your feet and hands can be planted. So if you've got, I don't know, a mat, it's going to help. But if you're on the carpet and you're just sliding, you just find yourself sliding, you're going to struggle to get a decent stretch out of this. So if you're struggling to find somewhere, I recommend that you put your heels up against a skirting board at least, and then that's at least one half of your body anchored, and then do your best with the hands. But all we're doing here is we're trying to get our legs nice and straight. I'm pushing my hips back, and from here, I'm trying to get my upper body through my arms. So as you can see, well, no, you probably can't see, it's a familiar one for most of us, but it should be a damn good and effective stretch, and we're going to be holding it a wee bit longer than we usually do this morning. Beginners, you're going to find it hard. Beginners are going to find it hard to get in a good position. You're going to feel a lot of restriction, especially in the hips. But remember, that's why you're here. That's why we're doing this. So if you find it difficult, just like anything, power through it and get the work done. Don't give into it and don't give up just because it's uncomfortable. Remember, a lot of these are stress positions for some people. So don't just give up, okay? Now while we're in here, to fine tune it, make sure your knees are locked out. Your heels may be on the ground, but they're probably not, but you're trying to push them towards the ground. And I want you with your pelvis just to try and lift it up a little bit. So you're trying to drive your tailbone almost up and back, and then from there, push your hands away from you. And you should feel a decent stretch in the upper body as well. Now that we've been holding it for at least about a minute, start adding your side twists of the torso in. So keep your lower body fixed in position and just start. Rotate, 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 rotate. Okay, and take your time with it. Again, this stretch is about you identifying any tightness and just trying to address it. So all I'm doing is literally tilting my upper body side to side and getting a good stretch in. Those lats in at the armpits, the areas we were smashing on Tuesday. From here, I want you to transition down, okay? So we're going to transition down, drop down into the hips. Now we're moving from the posterior chain to predominantly the front of the hips. But again, for most people, it depends where you're tight, where you feel it, okay? So we're spending a lot of time on the arms, so your arms will be tired. But like I say, this isn't a relaxation. But at the same time, try to focus on your breathing and let your body relax, okay? So it's certainly not meant to be easy. So I'm pushing up through and I'm trying to feel that stretch running up the front of my body. Where exactly you feel it is individual to yourself, but I'm telling you, you'll probably feel it around your hip flexors, definitely into the core, especially from Tuesday night's class. We've done a lot of core work, so if your stomach muscles are a wee bit tense, a wee bit tired, you'll certainly feel the stretch there. We might feel it up into the shoulders. And just by keeping that head tilted up, remember, look at the ceiling. You're going to feel a good stretch in the neck, okay? So we're getting a bit of the neck in, if you put the effort into it. So all we're doing is just trying to bend our spine backwards, but carefully, okay? So if things are jammed up pretty tight in your lower back area, just be careful. A bit of tension on the glutes doesn't go amiss. Now, you can't really tell from where you're looking now, but the only points of contact are my palms and my toes. Okay, so my legs aren't in contact here, so get those knees off the ground. Yes, get those knees off the ground. Good. And by having the knees off the ground, we're just going to get a bit more gravity, a bit more stress into the stretch from the hips. From here, we're coming back up. Okay, coming back up. Just take your time with it. And remember, tell yourself, if you're finding this a wee bit hard, it's not meant to be easy, okay? I think of us a lot of us expect these movements to be easy. We're trying to make them easy. The only way you're going to make them easier is by doing them and addressing the tightness we're getting. So we're throwing this one in at the start because it's going to get a full body stretch on. Okay, we're starting a wee bit more on the spine this morning. And you'll notice any tightness you've got in your body, any limiting areas you've got, highlighted on this movement, on both of them to be fair, but predominantly the one we're on now and the one we're holding. So remember, it's not just a hold, you're trying to get it better, okay? You're trying to enhance the stretch, so push through the hands. Push the hips up and back, continually trying to get it better and better and better. And yes, remember, the triceps probably are a wee bit tired just now, but I'm right there with you, you're not alone. Good, we're going to drop down for one more. So the reason we do this is to start every circuit, it's a damn effective stretch. If you're going to do one and one only stretch, you get up in the morning, you feel stiff and you give this a bash. It's one that you're going to walk away from feeling a hell of a lot better just from doing one movement, well, two movements in one. But we help get that spine moving freely and attack all the big muscle groups at the same time that might be limiting that movement in our body, especially, like I said, the hips. Good, and I want you just to slowly relax there. Shake those arms out, okay? Shake those arms out. So realise, just like exercise, you're going to get periods of rest, you're going to get a chance to get a sip of water. So if you are struggling holding these movements, because some of them, for most of us today, there'll be one that we really struggle with. You'll find yourself under a lot of strain, getting tired. Don't give up, okay? You're going to get a rest. So keep working through it. And all the more reason too, if you are struggling, to keep working through it and not give in. Right, okay, we're on to all fours and we're just going to get this spine moving a wee bit more. Okay, so we're on all fours. You should feel like you're pretty balanced between all 4 points of contact. And all we're going to do here is just start extending the spine backwards. So we're going to overextend. So the exact thing that I tell you not to do when you're exercising, we're going to do now in a controlled manner. So all I'm doing is I'm just simply trying to get my chest as proud as I possibly can. Imagine there's a mirror in front of you, you've got a big logo on your t-shirt, and you're trying to push through to get that logo to show on the mirror in front of you. Hell of a day out there, hell of a day. So with this one, we are trying to take it further and further and further, but to a point, okay? If you're fairly flexible in this area, then you're able to get a decent bit of overextension. Don't try and break your back, okay? We're not trying to look for that amount of tension. But you should feel that from the base of your spine to your skull, get a nice curve in that back. Good. You hear the construction work going on, it's great. Look at the wind at one side of me and so is at the other. Fantastic. Good. Focus on your breathing. Try to switch off and relax. Right, so from here, what am I doing? I want you to imagine someone's tied a rope to the centre of your spine, centre of your back, sorry, and they're pulling it up, but all your limbs are glued to the ground. So it's getting pulled up, pulled up, pulled up, pulled up. So I'm pushing through my hands. I'm trying to splay my shoulder blades apart, okay? And I'm trying to imagine I'm popping that spine out my upper back. With this one, go as far as you can and further, okay? So this is a good one. And I want you to make sure, if you're able to look at me now, have a quick look, because a lot of people on this one will only get the upper back going, okay? We need to get the hips going as well, so we need to get that whole spine up. See what I mean? The whole spine's coming up, so the pelvis almost starts to come underneath your body, whereas sometimes we maybe just do this. Okay, so try to get the whole spine up. You should feel like you're making yourself into an upside, well, not an upside down U, because that's an N, isn't it? Make yourself into an N. Good, to some degree. Good work. And just try to push it further and further and further. And then we're going to return back in to the overextension. Okay, so bring it back down slowly. Now from this moment on, it's up to you whether you want to 5-second pause it, then rotate back to the other one. 5-second pause, rotate back. Or if things are feeling really tight, okay, if things are feeling really tight, I suggest you hold for a bit longer. But if it just feels like you already have that kind of mobility in your spine, then I recommend, bloody hell. Can't I concentrate here? Can you hear that? Can you hear that on the eye? Right, good. I think today's the day I'm going to have my meltdown on live. I've held it together for about 12 months. Good. Fantastic. So we keep rotating, alternating between the two, taking it further and further and further. Good. And again, boom, sit yourself up and shake out. Got a sweat on this morning. Right, okay. So we're going into the same position. Now we're going to attack the thoracic spine. So we're going to attack that rotation of the upper back. Again, a very important movement and one that we lose because we don't often use it too much, okay? So we lose it. So we're going to start bringing in a bit of work to the thoracic spine and that important rotation. Now, a lot of people, tightness is going to occur in the front, okay? So this is where we're dealing with the back, but a lot of the tightness and restrictions coming from the front. Again, if you were fortunate enough to do Tuesday's class, where we were working on that overhead mobility, you're going to feel all that tightness in at the front here, okay? You're going to feel that present on this movement, which is going to restrict that, okay? But also if your lower back and obliques are pretty damn tight, you'll also feel that restriction in your core and hip area, okay? So you can see how multiple muscle groups affect one single movement, okay? So that's why we can't just deal with one, we deal with multiple. And that's why we're starting these movements this morning. We're attacking multiple muscle groups at once, but also giving you a chance to get to know your body a bit more and see what's causing that restriction or try to identify it. So from here, I'm on all fours, and all I want you to do is simply get your arm, okay, reach across, which isn't really going to do much for you, okay, but it's just to start the movement. Reach across, and then all I'm doing is coming up, and I want you to feel the rotation from your thoracic spine, your upper back, okay? That's all you need to concern yourself with. Try to minimize the rotation in your hips. So this is how to do it correctly. Take it as far as you can, keep your eye on your fingertips, take it as far as you can. And when you feel a restriction or you start to feel a compromise in the movement that you're holding, pause, try to take it further, and then release, okay? How to do it incorrectly is going to look a bit more like this. You'll get people either looking like that, okay, almost like they're trying to put themselves in a restrained position, or you start to rotate the full body, okay? So if you look at my hips, maybe you can't see it from the side so much, but if you start to let the hips come out, okay, that's us completely ruining the whole point of the movement. So again, from the front, I'm going from the starting position, I'm rotating, trying to imagine I'm keeping my belly button down as best I can, getting to that point I feel restriction. Now, advanced people, or people with better mobility, you'll find that you can get yourself fairly vertical, okay? Beginners, you'll find yourself sitting about here, feeling like you can't go any further. You'll feel like there's a physical block there almost, like you're just not meant to go that way. Trust me, it's just tightness and it's restriction, okay, in the muscle tissues and the joints, so we need to keep pushing it, taking it to that point. You can't go any further. Pause, take it as far as you can, release, bring back down, reach across. I want you to get the full rotation in. That's why we're reaching across. Good. Further and further and further. And each time you go up, with that pause, if you're doing it right, you should feel like you're getting just that little bit further, okay? And it's going to just be a little bit. Now, this is very important. If you're struggling with this movement, if you really struggle to get your arm up, you need to address it, okay? Because you're going to have all sorts of problems. You're going to find your posture's pretty poor, okay? But especially when it starts to come to things like with kettlebells, like I keep saying, you're going to find that you're putting your body in really compromised position. You're putting your spine under a lot of strain and stress that it doesn't need to be in, okay? Because of a lack of mobility and flexibility. Again, if you want to sit up and shake out before we change sides, then please do so. Okay, right, we're getting into it without further ado. So you're working at your own pace here. Remember, the first one might feel tight. So what we're doing here, if you're following along on the circuits, keep going what you're doing. You know how when I'm telling you to squat down and add that side rotation in? Okay, this is letting us achieve that better. Okay, if you really struggle with that side rotation while sitting into your squat, we're isolating that movement pattern now, and we're trying to attack it and make it better. So if you do struggle with that rotation, this is where it's going to benefit today. And remember, it's important that you take it to the point you feel you can't go any further, even if you're getting vertical, and try to take it further. Try to hold it together with good form, good posture, and then change sides. Good. So we're all different, and rest assured, it's not just a case of someone can do it and someone can't. Okay, if you can see someone doing it like me, Trust me, when I first started that side rotation in multiple different movements, I couldn't do it, okay? Especially the one we do as part of the warm-up. I can tell you at the start of lockdown, the original lockdown a year ago, I could not squat to that depth and add that full rotation in. You have to keep throwing it in. And again, it's one of those things, for a lot of people, they'll do it when they need to do it, and then they'll forget about it. So if you really lack this range of movement, okay, relax there if you want, you can keep going if you want. It's up to you, you're in control. But if you really lack that range of movement, try to even write it down until it becomes part of your consciousness and you're practicing it all the time, okay? And it doesn't need to be you sitting down for hours on end. Like I say, incorporate it into your day. But that's why I try to creep some of this stuff into our circuits so at least some people are getting the benefit. Right, how are we feeling with that so far? Feeling all right? Working on the spine, good. Right, okay, we're going to start working on feet and upwards, and then we're going to throw in a few bigger movements, okay? But if we're feeling a lot of tightness in it, the hamstrings, glutes and lower back, for example, if I throw these movements in too early, they're not going to go too well, okay? So now I want you to get into the ankles. I'm giving you the choice this morning, okay? Up against the wall, if you're not familiar with the movement, don't go anywhere. But we're up against the wall, and this is where you've got the choice. If your ankles themselves are feeling pretty tight, and the easiest way to test that is while you've got your foot wedged up with the ball of the foot up on the wall, push your knee forward. If you feel there's a very restrictive bit of movement in there, as in you struggle to push your knee forward, then you've got a lot of tightness in the ankles themselves, and I would recommend that that's the one you do. Or you can keep the knee locked out, and you can creep up and stretch out the calf. So if you're feeling a lot of tightness higher up, that's how we get the tightness higher up. We keep the leg locked out. You happy with that? Okay, so again, it's all familiar calf stretch. So it's important. You've got something on your feet for a start, probably, okay? Maybe you'll manage without. But we're up against a wall, and all I'm doing is trying to lean back, especially if your ankles are quite restricted. Lean back to get the ball. You need not just the toes, the ball of the foot up in that wall, okay? From here, make sure your toes are pointing vertical. And if you're going to start bending the knee, you're trying to aim the knee for your toes, okay? We don't want the knee caving inwards, like I'm showing you now, exaggerating a wee bit, but we don't want the knee caving in the way. Push it towards your toes, because we're trying to mobilize our body the way we want it to move, and we certainly don't want those knees collapsing in. So if you're going for the lower ankle, as in down towards an ankle joint, Achilles, keep the knee bent, continually try to push the knee further more, and you can walk towards the wall to increase the tension, okay? But don't walk forward to the wall and start locking your knee out. Unless, of course, you've decided to go for higher up into the gastrocnemius, which is the big thicker bit of your calf at the top. You can keep the leg locked out and you can shuffle forwards as much as you can bear to get a damn good stretch on it. So it's down to you, okay? We're not going to do both. Now that we're focusing on our static stretches, okay, I need you to make sure that you're taking it further and further and further, okay? It's not a case of keep easing in and out of it, especially if you're tight here. By all means, you can rock the knee a little bit to try and get further into the stretch, to try and further relax, okay? But don't constantly ease in and out, okay? And now I want you to change legs, everybody. Change legs there. If you're going for the knee bend and you're working down towards the ankle, if things are feeling really restricted, as in you're really struggling to bend your knee, that's a warning sign, okay? That's an alarm bell. You've got a lot of tightness in your ankles, so I would start getting on them every day. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. It requires no real setup, okay? There's no reason why you can't incorporate it into your day. If your ankles are that bad, certainly. Good. Remember, we're taking it further and further and further. If you're going for the straight leg, it's pretty simple. Just try and shuffle closer to the wall. If you're going for the bent leg, you're trying to push the knee further continuously forward. but you can also shuffle a wee bit towards the wall to increase the tension, but make sure when you shuffle forwards that you don't start to straighten the knee and take the edge off of the area that we're trying to attack. But again, that'll happen, you'll feel that happen. Good work, everybody. Right, ease out of there. Grab yourself a decent mat if you've not got one already. And we're going on to the all familiar. The horror for some, but again, if it's a horrible stretch for you, this one, okay, we're working up the front of the shin. We forget about the front, okay? We're too busy focusing on the ankles and the calves, but we get a lot of restriction in the front of the shins, okay? Especially runners who work in that very limited ankle range of movement. We get a lot of tightness up here. Do it regular and it's easy. Don't do it very regular and it's going to be painful for you. Well, it's not painful, it's going to be very uncomfortable, okay? Now, in terms of your knees, you shouldn't be getting knee pain, but if you are, obviously ease out of it. This isn't bad for your knees. Your knees are designed to work into this range of movement, okay? If your knees are sore, chances are there's problems elsewhere. But that's not what today's all about. Just in case anybody thinks, so, this can't be good for your knees, because you'll feel a lot of pressure on your knees, especially if there's a lot of tightness in and around your knees themselves, okay? But it's certainly not bad for our knees. Our bodies are designed for these positions. We just lose it, okay? So with this stretch, it's pretty simple what you're trying to do. Make sure the top of your foot is flat, okay? If you're able to get your fingers underneath, okay, underneath the front of your foot, where your ankle joint is pretty much, if you're able to get your fingers under there, that's what you're trying to push down. You're trying to get it so that you can't. If there's a lot of tightness there, you'll be able to get your fingers underneath, okay, but we're trying to get it flush. So it's pretty uncomfortable for a lot of people. Now what will happen if there's a high level of discomfort, or even if there's not, I want you to think about the area you're trying to stretch, okay? Take your mind to it now. Is it relaxed? Because if it's that bad, chances are you'll find your toes or your foot is just pushing subconsciously. Your brain's making it push into the floor to try and fight this, okay, because it's uncomfortable. So try to just make sure that you are indeed relaxed. Your breathing helps. Parrot. It's not working this morning. Good. And we're just trying to push. Right, there we go. We'll just try to push down in a relaxed manner. But imagine you're trying to get your bum to sit on the floor, okay? Now beginners, you'll be up here and it'll feel pretty uncomfortable. You don't want to put any more tension on, that's fine, as long as you're not easing in and out. Bit more advanced, have a play around with your position, okay? I want you to get back a bit more and not only sit back into it, but imagine you're trying to push down that hard that your knees are starting to lift off the floor, okay? Again, it's not nice, it doesn't feel nice, or it might. But remember, we should have these ranges of movements. If things are that tight and they're that uncomfortable, find what you can tolerate. Find the position that it's uncomfortable but you can tolerate. The worst thing you can do is just give up on it, okay? And that's where a lot of beginners fall by the wayside. They find it difficult, they find it uncomfortable, they find they can't get very good into these positions, and then they don't do them. But mobility and flexibility, everybody, as you know, those who do it regular, you can get it pretty quick. You can improve pretty quick, but you need to put the work in. It's like anything else. And then for a lot of us, it becomes maintenance. Good. So play around with it. Hold it for another 20 seconds. Good. When you're coming out of this one, okay, I'm going to come out of it first. When you're coming out of it, especially if you're way back, I want you to come back up. If you're way back here, I want you to make sure you're coming back up, nice and square on, and then start coming out of it equally, okay? Don't just roll off to the side when you're in these crazy positions, because you risk hurting yourself, okay? So get yourself up nice and square on, and then it's going to feel pretty horrible. So I want you to walk around. It's going to feel pretty horrible in that area where we've just restricted the blood flow to. So walk around, do a few calf raises if you like, okay, up onto your tippy toes, walk around, shake the legs out until it feels like it's starting to restore to a bit of normality. Good. Right, this is where if you've got a band, get it. If you don't, a towel is required. We're going to do a hamstring stretch, okay? So you're going to need your towel. or your band. So this is us moving up to the upper leg now. And as a result, starting to work into the hips. Classic stretch, familiar to most. We're getting more resistance band. The thicker the band, the kind of better on this one, because it's a big, powerful muscle group. If you've just got a thin band, you'll find that it's just not strong enough to support the hamstrings. The hamstrings will just constantly overpower. If you've only got a thin band, it doesn't matter. You can double it up, okay? Double it up onto your feet. Maybe triple it up, but just watch if you're tripling it up. Just have a look and see how much stress you're putting the band under, okay? Because remember, these bands are only rated for so much weight, so if you start putting a hell of a lot of stress on them, snap, okay? We don't want that happening, okay? Well, to the majority of people, we don't want that happening. Yeah, right. You ready for this? Terrible, terrible, I know. But you know who it's aimed at, so it's okay, isn't it? Right, we're ready for this. Let's go. Right, so with this one, everybody, I recommend that don't just go straight hammering into the hard part of it. When you take it off a wee bit, so for me it's about there, it doesn't feel too bad, and correct yourself first. So the first protocol is your toes. If you're able to see me now, we want to make sure that our toes are being pulled, okay? So you want to feel that your foot's relaxed. We don't want to fight. The first natural thing to do is fight the resistance band by pushing it away. Don't. Purpose of this resistance band is to pull the toes towards the shin, okay? So from here, I'm pulling down and I'm feeling that lengthening my calves, and it's also helping get a better stretch out my hamstrings. Then shoulder blades pulled together, because I want to be lying with good posture here. There's no point being up like this under tension. Lie down, shoulder blades pulled together, and then start moving that straight leg back as far as you can until you feel a hell of a stretch. I don't mean a stretch, I mean you feel a hell of a stretch. And that's your starting point, everybody, okay? From here, you focus on your breathing, and you try to just take it millimeters more, okay, at a time. Another couple of big breaths, take it a wee bit further. Make sure your knee doesn't start to bend, okay? That's the most important thing. And that leg that's on the ground is complete dead weight, okay? So don't bend it either. It's acting almost like an anchor for our hips to stay down. Taking it further and taking it further. So remember, try not to let your mind wander. By all means, let it wander off the discomfort, but don't let it wander off the task at hand. Remember, we're trying to take it further and further and further. We're developing our flexibility. Enhance the stretch by taking the leg further, but also pull that resistance band as well. Make sure that foot's relaxed. Good. And ease out of that there. Change sides. So it's a good indicator, okay? You can get cracking straight into this before I go off on one, but a lot of people come, you know, I see a lot of people, well, I've got tight hamstrings. Okay, they just say it. They just say they've got tight hamstrings because they feel a lot of tightness around that area. You'll know straight away if you've got tight hamstrings on this. Quite often or not, people don't have tight hamstrings, okay? It tends to be the restrictions coming from other areas like your glutes, but in your groin. That's what affects your movement, but a lot of people are quick to claim that their hamstrings are tight, especially when they're squatting. What you'll notice straight away is if you've got decent ankle mobility, no, if you've got decent hamstring mobility, you should be able to get roughly 90 degrees, okay? Very roughly. Sure, it might be uncomfortable, but if you're able to get your legs to 90 degrees, like as in this leg's completely straight, this leg's completely straight, and they're at a 90-degree angle to each other, that's fantastic. Well, it's fantastic. It's great. That's great hamstring mobility that you've got there, okay? Now, if your hamstrings are away down here and you're really struggling, then yes, indeed, you do have tight hamstrings, okay? So you might have suspected you've got tight hamstrings, but in actual fact, you don't, okay? So it's a good indicator. So if you do have tight hamstrings, yet again, just like anything really with mobility and flexibility, it's an alarm bell. If you're struggling to get your leg up at 90 degrees, think of how much tension that's pulling on your hips on a daily basis, how when you bend down to pick something up, how much range of movement that you're lacking, and how much your body then has to compensate, usually by you breaking form and bending and flexing your spine out of line. not out of line, out of form, to pick something up, opening up all those vertebrae and then pulling your back out. Okay, so again, there's a reason why we do this. There's a reason why the hour-long classes are on the go and they're still on the go. And it's a reason why you hear me harping on about mobility over and over and over again. It still feels like it's the new kid on the block that people don't quite take seriously or understand. But then people then start to kind of look towards it when they've got an injury or they've got a recurring injury. But I think it's just a case of when you do it and you do it regular and you start to see the improvements in how you're moving, and also maybe just the fact that you are a bit injury free for a bit longer. That's when you realise the importance of this stuff. I mean, there's many different forms of mobility and flexibility, okay? This is just downright mobility and flexibility, what we do here, okay? I don't butter it up and make it anything. But you've also got your different disciplines like yoga, Pilates, all that kind of stuff. Personally, I've never done it, but it's the same idea. It's flexibility and mobility. I tell you what, I'm glad I got the microphone fixed on my neck. Because if I had that other one on the camera, my word. Saying that, if you're on live, you'll just be getting it all. You'll feel like you're living in a construction zone site. To be fair though, I've not had any of that for a long time. It used to be a daily occurrence. Right, relax there. Right, hopefully that was feeling good. And again, like I say, it's giving you an idea of your hamstring mobility. If you're lacking getting it at 90 degrees, okay, keep doing it. Throw it into your day. Again, make it your new thing. Just pick one each week. Write it down on a piece of paper and stick it to the mirror that you look at yourself on and say, hamstring mobility is the focus of this week. Okay, next week it could be the glutes. But you'll continually, if you're anything like me, there's continually an area that needs improving. There's always one that starts to lag behind the other. So each week, you know, I've got my usual ones that are kind of holding me together, and then I've got the problem ones that start to creep in. So try to keep on top of them, and like I say, don't look at mobility as it has to be an hour class. You can easily incorporate it into your day, easily. Right, okay, where are we at? Right, we're going to take the same movement. Again, some of these are familiar. It's important that if you're not, watch it first. I'll do it very quickly. Watch it first to get the key points because it can be done wrong. This is potentially very uncomfortable, and remember what I said. Take it to the point that you can grin and bear that discomfort. Don't give into it. Don't just go, oh, this is so uncomfortable. I feel awkward. It feels hard. I'm rubbish. Okay, lose that attitude. Okay, realise that, yep, it might be difficult, it might be uncomfortable, but if you can grin and bear it, you're going to get better. Especially with this movement, okay, it's going to highlight straight away any potential problem areas that might be affecting you in your problematic lower back if you've got one. If you feel a lot of tightness around your hips and your lower back especially, this one is going to highlight to you straight away what muscle group is responsible for that, or it might be all of them, okay? So let's get into it. And if it is all of them, that's where our lower back specific mobility overhaul class addresses all those areas, like with obliques, okay? And more QL muscles with hamstrings, with glutes. So I'm doing the same setup as my hamstring, okay? So make sure you've got that set up correct first, because see when I move my leg over, you can't see it, but it hasn't changed. A lot of us straight away when we move that leg over, we lie in that position and we let the leg bend, okay? Because again, it's pretty tight, it's pretty uncomfortable. Don't. So I'm pulling that resistance band. It's on my right leg, so I'm holding it with my left arm. Now make sure you get a decent bit of tension on this, okay? I'm holding it with my left arm. If you're able to get 90 degrees, or even if you're only able to go this far, make sure you maintain this range as you rotate round, okay? Don't, as you rotate round, let the legs start to fall back down to 45 degrees. Happy with that so far? So that's admin point number one. So I've rolled over here, okay? Then from here, I've got my foot pinned to the ground, my knees straight, and I'm feeling the stretch running here. For a lot of us, we'll feel a lot of tightness into the glutes, okay? Into the hip area here. From here, I'm then going to rotate round with my nice straight arm. Remember, I don't want to be lying all squint to crush spine. Keep the legs nice, and straight. The leg nice and straight and the arm nice and straight and rotate, okay? Now again, yep, it's all fair and well watching me But if you are a bit tighter, it's not going to be as graceful, okay? You're going to find it real hard. You're going to be like, oh. In which case I would say to you, just bend that arm a little bit and just get round as far as you can. Get round and get into the best possible position you're able to get into. Don't just give into it, okay? So again, if you've got a lot of tightness here, you can use your band or you can use a towel, or if you don't have a towel, you don't need anything as such. But that band's just letting us enhance the tension we're getting on this area, okay? So it's going to improve the quality of your stretch having that band there. So let's get into it. Again, a very important one. So straight into it now, you're going to be getting, this is a great mobility drill, and the reason I've just done a few stretches beforehand is so we can all get the most out of it and we can kind of get a better feel of it. You're going to feel it running, again, into the glutes, a bit of the hamstrings. You're going to feel the tightness in your QL muscles, you know, the ones we smash when we do the lower back with the little massage ball. You're going to feel if they're restricted. You're going to feel your obliques if they're restricted in your core. And then when we bring this arm up and rotate it round to the side, you're going to feel straight away if there's tightness in the chest, into the shoulder, and maybe even the biceps as well. So you can see why this is a great stretch, why it's very effective, and why if you struggle to do it, again, ding dong, that's the alarm bell going off, okay? Let's start addressing whatever's feeling restricted. It might feel that the whole movement just feels like you can't do it, in which case, start coming to your mobility classes or start doing them and catch up more often, because if you do them and you do them well, you'll find this movement not too bad, okay? You might have done it a few months ago and it felt hellish, but if you've been keeping on top of your mobility, identifying your problem areas and working on them, it'll just feel like a damn good stretch. But if not, it'll feel horrible. Now again, when I first started doing these, it was hellish, okay? We're going to ease out of that one. If you want to hold on for longer, by all means do so. So that's a good one to do, especially if you do have a lot of tightness in your lower back, because again, we've got a tight lower back. The first thing we do is stretch out the lower back. We start to massage the lower back when in actual fact, potentially, very highly, potentially, it's not actually the lower back that's the cause of the problem. Okay, so hopefully you're getting into these positions and you're just getting a feel for what's tight, what needs work, what feels like it's really restricting you in this position. Right, so from here, again, I've changed sides. So for me personally, I'm on my left leg, so I'm going to use my right arm to take that tension up in the band. I'm holding my good hamstring stretch, and I'm going to bring it across like a window wiper, if you like, bang on, keeping it at that angle. Straight away, this side feels even tighter, but I'm getting a hell of a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and a lot of stretching out of this hip area here, okay? So I'm not rushing, okay? You can see I've not just rushed to get the arm across. I'm going to spend 30 seconds just holding this position because there's a lot of tightness. If I just go into this position here, I end up going into a half-arse position, if you like. So there's nothing wrong with hanging out in this position briefly until the stretch maybe relaxes a wee bit to allow you to get a better quality rotation, okay? And again, this is the thoracic spine rotation. So we started with this morning. So straight away, if you're struggling to do this arm rotation, to keep this arm straight and rotate round, we've already identified, okay, the overhead mobility class that we've done on Tuesday is the best protocol for you to fix this side rotation, because you've got tightness in the chest, you've got tightness in the shoulder, and you've probably got a good bit of tightness in the obliques as well, to be fair. So you know how to smash your obliques. I've done them a few times now, and if you don't, I'm happy to show you if you don't. Simple as that. Right, so if you're pretty more advanced with this stuff and you're finding it not too shabby, to enhance it, try to get the leg higher up, okay? So take your leg even higher up, bring your rotation back off, take your rotation off, bring the leg higher, and then go back into your rotation. And you might find that just makes it harder for you. Remember, we don't rest on our laurels. Sure, you might be able to do some of these movements and find them not too bad, but don't just rest on that. You're still striving to make yourself better. Usual, I just talk the whole way through it to try and get maybe someone somewhere to do it better. But when you're doing this, if there is a lot of tension, everybody, in at your hip area, in at your glutes, you'll find that they're not relaxed. That's why I tell you to try and focus your mind on that area. If you focus your mind on that area and try to just imagine that you're sinking into the ground, it's going to help enhance the stretch. Okay, sinking into the ground, gravity is just letting you sink slowly into the ground. Your muscle groups relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. Good. Great work, everybody. Relax there. Oof. So this morning we're just dealing with the big flexibility movements, okay, on the big muscle groups. Not all the little nooks and crannies, okay? So we're going to be spending, as usual, key areas. We're nearly done, okay, but we're going to keep going. We're getting into the groin now, okay? So you'll notice straight away that there's always a lot of tightness in the hips. If you exercise regular, which I do and most of you on there do, and you do your flexibility and mobility regular, which I do and most of you on here do, you'll still find that getting into these movements, there's a lot of tightness, okay? From pushing our bodies hard, muscles get tight, muscles get tired, okay? Now imagine you're pushing your body hard and you never do any of this stuff, okay? So my point being, you know as someone who's doing the mobility regular, how quick you are to tighten up, how quick you start to lack the range of movement if you don't keep on top of it. So it's even, I don't even know where I'm going. You know what I'm saying, I've lost my chain of thought now. You can imagine the detrimental impact of never doing this stuff, but constantly pushing your body harder and harder. And again, for me, everybody's here, just like for every other thing we do, everybody arrives for their own reasons. Okay, maybe we've got similar reasons, similar goals, but we've all got our own little reason as to why we came here. Okay, and for me, my reason is it's allowing me to exercise better. I'm not trying to be cheesy and I'm not trying to be a salesman here. Okay, don't feel I have to be. But for me, it's the fact that it allows me to continually keep moving better when I'm exercising, for the likes of when I'm squatting maybe with weight on my back. I'm squatting to better depth. I'm not feeling that tightness when I start to descend into my squat. It feels healthier, okay? If I'm out running, I'm running more injury free. All the little niggles and pains that I'm getting or had on a daily basis are starting to go away now, okay? And that's the truth. Sure, you know, life throws curveballs at you. You're still going to hurt yourself. You're still going to injure yourself, okay? You're still going to get little aches and pains appear out of nowhere. We're all human at the end of the day. But since really getting to grips with this stuff, I personally have seen a big improvement. That's why I keep doing it, okay? And that's why I keep harping on about it. Because there's so many people who don't move well. They've never moved well. And I think for a lot of people, they accept that as an excuse. Almost as if that's just them. Well, my flexibility is not great. It's just the same as fitness, okay? A lot of people don't realise that they can be fit as everybody else. But we create that boundary, almost of acceptance. Well, my mobility's terrible. Oh, my ankle mobility's always been dreadful, okay? But we can make it better. And I'm not going off on one even though I am. But my point is, this stuff has huge benefits to your day-to-day, and especially as we get older, because we're all getting older. Every day that passes, we're all getting older. As you get older, day by day, if you're not doing these movements, if you're not putting your body in these ranges of movement, you're just going to seize up and seize up and seize up. And that's why I say it, okay? You end up decrepit. You get a lot of people hit retirement age. I've said this before because I've seen it myself. You get a lot of people hit retirement age. Their job was maybe the only thing that was keeping them actively moving. And very quickly, as they approach, you know, going on 70, a lot of people just become decrepit, okay? And what I mean by that is they struggle to move, they struggle to walk, they struggle to get up out of a chair. And again, I'm not insulting people because I'm speaking about people in my own life. You see them start to degenerate pretty damn quickly just from not putting their bodies and working their bodies the way they're meant to. And that's why, again, it's all about luck to some degree as well, how well we age, but if you look after yourself, you'll age better. And that's why you see some people, you know, you see people in their 90s still running marathons, still exercising well, still moving well, because they continue to do so. Whereas then a lot of people hit a certain point and tell themselves they're too old for this now, or their peers tell them they're too old for this now. And so they very quickly start to degenerate. Relax there. And again, I'm speaking from personal experience, okay? I'm not speaking to anybody directly. There's nobody decrepit on these classes, is there? Right, okay. Cheeky bugger. No, you're not. Right. But that's my point, okay? A lot of people are quick to write themselves off. And I'm only saying it. We're getting into the usual stretches, everybody. You can see what I'm doing, okay? We're getting into a good old squat, and I'm just offering one now. Big step forward, okay? I'm pinning that foot with a hand. I'm pinning the other hand. Make sure that your shin's vertical, okay? I'm showing you from the front here. Pushing the hips down, forcing the chest up. I'm going to show you from the side. Again, this is another one where you're going to identify any restriction, okay? This is a big one where you're going to find that if your groin's pretty damn tight, you struggle to get into it, which is what we're attacking here, okay? Now, if your groin is pretty tight, what do I struggle to do? I struggle to get that spine of mine nice and straight, okay? So again, that's showing you, when you're squatting, because this is what we're putting our body, our hips are in the position of a deep squat right now, okay? One leg. So if you've got a lot of tightness in your groin, look at my spine just now, okay? See how my lower back's curved? That's what happens when you've got that restriction in your groin area. So when you descend into a squat, you start to curve the lower back. Now that's not something you feel. That's why I'm looking on the camera to see if it is actually curved. That's not something you feel, or a lot of people feel when they squat. They squat to depth and then the lower back starts to curve. Okay, it starts to be pulled, their hips start to be pulled underneath because of that tightness. And it's not something you often feel, and you see that happen a lot when people are squatting with weight on their back, okay? They squat to depth, and when they get to the bottom of their squat, they don't feel it, but they're in this kind of position. Again, look at my lower back, it's curved, isn't it? So those vertebrae are all opened up, like so, yep. So that tightness is coming from here. You tend to find, keep holding that stretch, tend to find that also causes people to start to collapse their knees in the way because of that restriction. Get back into it. So we need to try and push down and get that range of movement, that mobility back into the hips that allows us to get that nice straight back now, okay, to allow us to get that nice straight back. And again, I remember when I first discovered this movement, I was like this, on my fingertips, doing all the usual things wrong, trying hard, feeling like I couldn't get down. Time, and eventually you'll get it, okay? But you need to persevere. And it's like anything, just like fitness. If you put the work in and you put it in hard, you'll get the results pretty damn quick. But if you just take it to that point where it feels uncomfortable and then you ease off a wee bit, tell yourself you're not very good at it, okay, you'll probably find that you just stay the same. You don't see much improvement. We're going to change sides. Okay, so we're just working on some hip openers now. So back to the moral of the story. It's never too late to improve yourself, and it's never an excuse. I had a 75-year-old man a couple of years back. Probably was a couple of years back now, geez, oh, come in. He wanted to be here deep down, but he had a lot of doubt because his 75-year-old friends were laughing at him at the golf club saying, what are you going to a personal trainer for? You off your nut, you're too old for that. All his friends were dying round about him, heart attacks, bad health, just in general. And again, I'm speaking the truth. So that filled him with even more doubt to be here. And again, another thing you realise is from that generation, gyms weren't even a thing. So that becomes even more of a laughing point. They don't understand the whole concept of a gym. Personal trainers weren't even around in those days. They've become a luxury. But he could barely move, as in, when I say he could barely move, when I defined decrepit, he was decrepit. He could not squat, he could not bend down to pick things up. If he did, he'd probably fall over. But again, to most people, they'd look at that and go, ah, well, he's an old man. Okay, what do you expect? Here, I'll get that for you. Okay, but over time, working on his mobility over a space of a few weeks, he was able to squat, poorly, but able to squat. Over the space of more weeks, he was then able to squat with a bar on his back and hold good form, start to add weight to the movement. It took a lot longer, because that's what happens when we get older. Things take longer to achieve, things take longer to adapt. Your body becomes not quite as resilient as it was, but it can still do it. It never stops. Your body's a wonderful thing. So his mobility improved, and then he was able to start squatting, start moving, and start doing what the rest of us can do with good mobility and flexibility. Yes, it took a wee bit longer, but he got there, okay? The point being, he wiped the smile off all his pals' faces, and he was a hell of a lot healthier. Don't know where he is now, okay, because then all this COVID nonsense hit and lockdown began. I've seen him since, so I'm slightly concerned. But my point being is, a lot of us use a lot of these factors as an excuse for not being good. We can do something about them, okay? But then also on that note, a lot of us feel we're not good at something, so then we just write ourselves off very quickly. Okay, I'm crap at mobility, therefore I'm just no mobile, I'm no flexible. I hear that a lot. Same with the coordination. Okay, I hear that one as well. I'm not coordinated. Of course you're not. You've never done this movement before. You get coordinated by practicing it. Fitness as well, okay? A lot of people don't feel fit and they use that. They don't use it, sorry, they don't mean to say that. They don't use it as an excuse. A lot of people aren't fit. They're surrounded by people who are fit, so then they feel pretty poor about themselves. They feel they're not good enough, so then they don't push themselves because they think these other people are on a different level to them, as if they're superior beings. We're all the same. Put the work in, you get the results. There's no reason why one person can't be fit and another person you can't get there too. We're all genetically gifted in other ways, in many ways to others, as in a lot of us can go a lot further naturally if you're pushing it to that point of like when you are a top end athlete. Some of us are naturally genetically gifted to go further and become champions at that thing. But most of us never get to that stage anyway to even care or ever use genetics as an excuse. None of us are very much in that playing field. My point being, there's no reason why you can't get to a certain point with your fitness that someone else has got to, and the same with your mobility and flexibility. Takes time, takes hard work, okay? But, aye, that's it. That's all I've got for you this morning. How are we feeling? Feeling good? Good. We're done.